welcome to the next episode of the Locker Room podcast. Caoimhe Morris here is your host for today. So I'm delighted to say that I've got three very experienced guests on today's podcast, and we're going to be discussing a roundtable on female sport. Just before we jump into that, I just want to give a shout out to our lovely sponsors at RICT. So RICT is a software platform built for performance coaches and organizations. So easy to use programming tools and training load, well-being and nutrition monitoring via the RICT app. All of your coaching tools are in one place. Streamlining your coaching, making it more accessible for your clients and athletes, and providing you with the insights you need to optimize performance. And thanks to RICT, we have a very special 2-month free trial for anyone who's listening to the podcast today. So if you head over to www.rypt.app, that's rypt.app, and use the code LOCKERROOM, you get your 2-month free trial. So without further ado, we'll jump straight in. So I'm delighted to say, again, I've got 3 brilliant guests on today. So we've got Maria Kinsella, who probably has the longest title I've ever seen in my life. She is former chair of the women's GPA. Currently they're going through a bit of a transition. So she's the current co-chair of the Transitional National Executive Committee of the GPA. I also have Erin Bracken from Basketball Ireland. She's a Community Development Officer with Basketball Ireland and with South Dublin County Council for the South of Dublin. And then I have Lizzy Kent as well, who's the head coach of the Wexford Youth Under-17s and assistant coach of the Irish Under-19 soccer teams. So guys, you're very welcome. Hope you're looking forward to today. And I think on every episode recently, I just have to ask everybody, how was lockdown treating you? So Erin, how has lockdown been for you?
I suppose it's been up and down, like everyone else, I'd imagine. I was quite lucky. I actually got my new job while in lockdown, so you know, like that was a positive. In terms of basketball, I think there's been some positives that have come out of it, even the engagement factor that we've had on all of our webinars, and I think coaches are able to kind of communicate with each other like over Zoom, which is great. And I think everyone has been really engaged, you know, like in trying to educate themselves. Of course it's been really tough. Like I coach a bit as well, like I have an underage boys and an underage girls team, and I have the men over in Dublin Line, so like it's been really difficult like not having them, but sure, please God, we'll be back on court soon.
Yeah, you've had everything over Zoom, all training sessions and everything, or?
Yeah, like to be fair, we haven't done anything over Zoom in a while. I think some people kind of got sick of it because it was almost like a lockdown 1 type thing that we had, and by the time we got to the 3rd one, it was probably just a bit overused. But no, we're just like hoping that we can get back outdoors as soon as possible with the kids, you know, like even to do the non-contact stuff. So yeah, hoping for good news there.
And Lizzy, I know you're one of the very few sports at the moment who's currently working away with some leagues and everything. So has it been as bad for soccer in the country?
Yeah, but possibly not, I suppose. Like, we were very lucky last year that we got to finish out our under-17 season, and I guess with the Women's National League kicking off this weekend, it's like waking up on Christmas morning, to be honest, getting to see a live game. So, as in, you know, so we've been lucky in that regard, and I suppose similar to kind of Erin, you know, there's a lot of learnings out of it as well. Yes, and particularly last year, like our 17s team was shut down on 3 different occasions, and the last shutdown came literally the first week in December, and at that point I think it was a Thursday evening, we were on our way to training, and we're starting to get calls, is training going ahead, like all the games have been pulled. And then so literally we went with that, which was the 3rd time I suppose that it was being pulled, to the following Tuesday. No, they're back on, bang, we had a week. So like we were literally playing up until the 18th of December, but we were very lucky to get to finish it at the same time, but it was very challenging in that regard. But no, absolutely, we're thrilled, I suppose, to be back, and hoping that more good news maybe to follow next week, fingers crossed, or this week even, if I get it right.
And how about yourself, Maria? You guys are going through a big change as well.
Yeah, I suppose one of the perks or the benefits of lockdown and COVID was that it allowed us in the GPA to have a little bit more time in some ways, a little less time in other ways, to actually work through our merger, which was voted on the 14th of December in 2020. But I suppose that wasn't just something that came out overnight. It was the guts of 2 years work in the background. So it was just fantastic to kind of get that voted on and get it over the line and voted upon so unanimously by both sides as it being the correct step to come together and create a single combined players association for over 4,000 members. So really positive, a lot of work now to get through. The work is probably just beginning now. That's the easy bit done. But no, it's been good, and like the girls as well, huge engagement on webinars from players over the last 12 months. rookie camps with over 300 players, which previously was held in person and had about 120. So I think everyone is enjoying, the comfort of being able to dial into these things from home, but we're itching to get back on the pitch, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get a confirmed return to date play for intercounty.
Yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat, and I know myself, I don't know how many webinars I've been on in the last year or so. Like, it's been absolutely ridiculous, but it's so nice to just have to go up the stairs basically to make a meeting rather than traveling across the country. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I think it's been great for that and with the network and that kind of thing. So that actually, we might jump into our first question basically around how your sport is getting on at the moment. And Maria, I might come to you first, since you've mentioned the amalgamation there. So it's a brilliant thing to see. I think it seems to be something that has been, wanted by players for a long time. So what are you guys hoping to achieve with the amalgamation?
Yeah, so we're currently working through a 6-month transitional period where basically both associations are now combined as one. We're going to have a joint national executive committee. So we're in the process of whittling that down from the 35, bringing the two together down to 16. And that's going to be prorated on membership. So 60% male, 40% female. But there'll be 4 elected officers, 2 male, 2 female. And then we're also changing our board of directors to be 50-50 gender. And integrating all the operational and programs and services that go alongside that. So that's a lot of work in itself. But I suppose over the last 2 years, we've become a lot more closely aligned with the GPA through joint programs and joint initiatives and joint sponsorships. So just looking to build upon that. But I suppose the big change was actually in our constitution, where we introduced a new objective, which was to promote equality in sport and to work towards equal investment, equal recognition, and equal opportunities across Gaelic games for all members. So that's what we're now setting out to achieve, and a key part of that is one element is achieving equal government funding on a per head basis. So we've kicked that off and through probably the WGPA 11, the field report which was released in October 2020. So we're following up with the government and Sports Ireland and looking to hopefully hear an increase in a pathway to achieving equality on that over the next few years. And then also just trying to replicate some of the fixtures changes. So the men's have, they've actually voted a split season in for 2021 and 2022 onwards. That hasn't been adopted by the female codes just yet, but I think there's learnings to be obtained through there. So a lot of strategic objectives. So yeah, big things coming down the line, but it's really exciting time to be a combined association and for players to lead integration in Gaelic games.
That sounds brilliant, and it's very rare to see I guess any professional bodies that have equality, even on that kind of committee level. And I know I guess there was a lot of attention around, was it the end of last year, with a lot of the fixtures being moved to different stadiums, and then you guys did a bit of a study around I guess the financial contribution that these intercounty players have to put in. And this is all, lockdown has been quite tough, and we haven't seen a lot of sport, but I think it's been brilliant from that point of view of, even on a simple term, people have more time on their phone now, and they're seeing all these kind of things come up. And I think hopefully those kind of stories coming out have just sort of, raised the profile of the inequality there, and it gives you guys a good standing to sort of move on with it,
Yeah, I think on the back of that report, we kind of put out some statistics that shocked a lot of people in the sporting world, but I think maybe to ourselves we're nearly too normalised to them, that they're just part of our everyday life. That like 93% of intercounty female players don't receive any travelling expenses. Like you talk to a male player and they just cannot wrap their head around that. Never mind the additional, medical costs that female players also have to cover, and gear and fundraising and everything else that, sometimes it really is an education when you sit down and you talk to a male player and you share your experiences of the game and, what they get and what they do and how they train. And then also how you train and what you have to do to represent your county. And, I think both parties kind of go away from it a little bit shocked in some regards. But look, that's the whole objective of the new GPA and what we're trying to achieve in the years ahead.
Well, I guess it's, unfortunately, maybe it's not that uncommon. And I know, Lizzy, there was a report or a story there during the week. It might have been from Wexford Youth, I'm not actually sure now, but a player who said that she would typically be helping other players, contribute to subscription fees and all this kind of thing. And, thankfully, I think it is, getting a lot of attention. It seems to be moving on about that sort of, the financial input that women's sports are getting. So what's the setup like for soccer? Has there been a lot of investment recently? Is it going good places?
Yeah, and I think just following on from, it's actually Kylie Murphy that you're talking about, who's captain of Wexford Youth. So just in the past couple of weeks, we've managed to tie down a 3-year sponsorship with Energia, and basically they've committed to covering the players' subs for the next 3 years for our senior teams. So like there's a substantial outlay, similar as Maria was mentioning there. They pay €500 a year to play, so it's to take away that pay-for-pay barrier for the players. And Energia have been, I suppose, a big support to Wexford Youth over the years. And just, again, during this lockdown period, it allowed us to have time to discuss and see, and maybe to strategically start thinking about where we were going and what we wanted to provide for our players. So this was one area, and I guess to give that commitment has been massive. And I think within women's soccer in the last year as well, a lot of changes in the FAI, as in that everyone's very much aware of. But the National League kicked off last weekend, and honestly, I suppose I've been involved in women's soccer for the last 10 years, and I've never seen the amount of coverage that it has received over the last 10 years. This year has certainly by far and away been the best. And maybe too, that comes down to that it is the only sport back as well, which again, to me, that's a positive, because we can only build and keep adding to that, and the introduction of the dual sponsorship, the SSE Electricity, who sponsored the men's league for a number of years. It's now a dual sponsorship. LOI TV has come on board, and every single women's game has been streamed for free this year. So, it's tremendous. And I guess, you'd hope that will continue. I've seen a massive change in the past year, and maybe that opportunity to stop and to plan and to actually start looking I feel it'll be really beneficial going forward, and, provide a platform where, I suppose I don't want to say, I suppose, that the levels just even up a little bit, and that the same work that's being carried out within the women's game is acknowledged similarly as it is in the men's game. And I mean, I guess we are in our infancy in a way. Like, the women, I think I was looking at something there today, we're only in the region, women's GA and women's soccer, 50 years in existence. So like, we were making massive strides, and I think, each organisation is, well, in my mind, is helping the other. Like I see what's happening, or what has happened with the WGPA, and I think it's making other people kind of go, well, yeah, why shouldn't we? So I think each organisation is helping each other and supporting each other on that as well. So hopefully onwards and upwards, that would be my hope anyway.
Yeah, and I was having a now Google there to see how you guys got on the weekend, because I know you guys were playing Peamount, and we won't talk about it, obviously, I'm sure. It was a lovely goal, but it was a goal for the other team. But was shocked that the first hit on Google was a YouTube video to the entire match. So, that's a very uncommon thing to see in sports, but also brilliant to see. And, that doesn't just come from, somebody showing up with their iPhone and recording the match and put it up on YouTube. That's, an awful lot of investment, an awful lot of personnel to look after that. So it's brilliant to see, and it can only mean good things going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And even, I know, I'll move away from the Wexford game, but the Cork game, there was a worldie of a goal scored in that, and that hit the Twitter headlines over the weekend as well. And I was heading to work this morning and listening to it on the radio that that Becky Casson, she's actually a former youth player as well, but she had got the goal and was being interviewed on national radio this morning. And it's excellent, because that wasn't the case, into the very, very recent past, so I think it's very positive. And I do think, obviously, and I know it's the 20 by 20 campaign, it's been a kind of a collective, like there's societal changes that are helping with all this as well, but I think it's all really starting to move in the right direction and in the right way. So it's not about, well, for me, not that it's not about male and female, but it's just about removing barriers that, people can get the opportunities, get the coverage, get the support that they need. And, you know, I suppose I always like to maybe just take the gender out of it and try and say, let's try and move the barriers, whatever those barriers are, let's move them. So yeah, no, it's very positive.
Yeah, brilliant. And Erin, I know probably Basketball Ireland is basketball should I say, is probably one of the sports that have been hit the hardest by lockdown and everything. And speaking of sort of coverage in the media and things, we see an awful lot of times that the CEO is speaking to the press and things about trying to get basketball back, because probably the last time you've been coaching was you had a under 18s final, didn't you, with Liffey Celtics or something? That was probably the last time you were on a court over a year ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like, I mean, our media team have been great at trying to keep everyone engaged as much as possible. And I know there's different kind of coaches around the country that are trying to keep their own kids engaged, you know, like over Zoom. Like the girls have kind of said, like, there's loads of time for planning. So we've been trying to plan all the officers and people, you know, even our women in sport lead. Like, she's doing a great job at the moment, and I kind of work closely with her to try and work on some initiatives that we want to try and roll out kind of as soon as possible, possibly around like mentorship, coach education, and then obviously to try and increase participation. Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember, like, I think my last competitive game was in March, like it was early March last year. It was down in Tralee with the men's team. We were playing Tralee in the men's Super League, and we got absolutely tanked, and it wasn't a nice game to finish up on, like, but I was actually preparing for under 18 men's final we were supposed to have on a Friday, and then we got told on the Wednesday that everything was kind of getting shut, and Basketball Ireland pulled the rest of the leagues and all the cups and everything. So it was like crazy scary at the time, because obviously nobody knew what was going to happen. I don't think we knew we were going to be out of action for this long at the time, you know. We actually went through pre-season, you know, National League last year, and 2 days before the league was about to start in October, we were told then that the league was being pulled, and, you know, we were hoping that it would start at some stage this year. But I think Basketball just had to make the decision then to call it, because there was just no kind of light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they were one of the first sports to actually stop playing. I think they were the first NGB to sort of announce that. But I know I'm involved with Basketball Ireland a little bit, and, you know, you're constantly trying to supply people with more online stuff, and I know some of the strength and conditioning coaches as well who are, you know, running Zoom classes every other day, and, you know, I think everyone's in the same position, but it's a difficult kettle of fish, it seems. When it's an indoor sport, it's an awful lot harder to manage the return.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, last summer when we were kind of playing away a bit, we were able to scrimmage and we had camps, and, you know, like, we were doing our best to make sure that we had kind of good conditions for the kids to play in. And it is difficult. Like, we're really hoping that we can do a lot outdoors this summer. Like, obviously 3x3 is one of the big, like, FIBA events that has become quite popular across Europe over the past few years, and we're really hoping that we can kind of roll some of them events out throughout the country. But yeah, I mean, getting back indoors, we've no idea like when that might happen. We're aiming for like a normal start to the season, like next September, October, but I suppose we just have to kind of take it day by day, really, like, and, you know, hoping that we have good news tomorrow about getting the kids back outdoors to do some like skill work and non-contact training.
Yeah, I think every sport has fingers crossed for tomorrow now. Hopefully it goes well and we're listening back to this and we're happy. You mentioned there, Erin, as well, just about that kind of coach education stuff, and that's actually around my next question as well. I think, you know, we've mentioned like a lot of changes and a lot of initiatives that have come into, you know, our individual sports, and I can only talk from a rugby perspective, but the amount of sort of online webinars and online coaching courses and that kind of thing that has gone on has been brilliant, and it makes it, I think, really accessible to females, because it's not so much that you're going to be the only woman in a room of 50 people now. Like, it's brilliant. Everyone's camera is off, you can hide in the corner if you want but still get the education you want. So I guess my question for you would be, have you seen any changes in female participation in basketball, Erin, and what have they been?
As a coach, like, you know, with other female coaches, or
participation in any regard. Have you seen more players come in, more referees, more committee members, anything like that?
Well, yeah, I know that there's a big push around it. Like, obviously with the 2020 campaign, we were really trying to increase participation across all levels, because obviously it's not just, you know, like when you're coaching an underage girls team or whatever, like some of them girls may not you know, go on to be a player, but they might ref, they might, you know, be a table official, they might be a manager, whatever it is. Like, you want to try and keep people involved in the game for as long as possible in any aspect. In terms of coaching, I actually did my thesis in my master's on examining the work-life balance in female basketball coaches, and you know, there's very few women coaching at kind of a high level in the country, like whether that's men or women. There was only like 4 or 5 coaches coaching at National League level or Super League level as an assistant or a head coach. So it is something that, you know, we need to work on. You know, I think I spoke to these women like in particular, and, you know, talk to other women and trying to see what those barriers are, like why they feel like they can't take maybe that next step up to a higher level. So we're really trying to address those issues, and I know our Women in Sport lead is working on stuff to try and provide more opportunities. And like you said, the webinars are great, but then it is a case of like, what's the follow-up then? You know, like you have an hour of a webinar, you know, somebody, they feel engaged, they feel like they're after taking something out of that hour, but then what happens when they go and stand in the court in wherever amount of months away or weeks away with their group of kids, and it's like, well, maybe they feel a bit lost. So we want to try and create a platform where coaches can kind of continue to get better, you know, and it's not just a 1 hour webinar every so often or a clinic every so often. You know, we want to really try and do that, and I know there is some of the development officers working on stuff like that at the moment, so it would be continual, like a continuous coach education.
Yeah, I think like there's an awful lot of data behind that, and like you mentioned in your thesis of I guess the barriers to participation, why women don't get involved. I know myself, I'm involved with a few focus groups, and one of them that will always annoy me is that if females show up to, say, a training session or whatever it might be, you know, they're there with their kids or whatever, they're first off asked to go help with the tea and coffee or something after training, instead of, oh, do you want to jump on the pitch and give us a hand, kind of thing. So those are, you know, some of the small barriers, and I hope they're being broken down a little bit more. And it's great to see, you know, for example, female only courses and that kind of thing. And I know, Lizzy, you were involved in a female only for the, what was it, the UEFA license as well recently, and those kind of things are brilliant to see. So like, do you find them useful? Do you think we need to bring more of them in?
Yeah, I think it's a balance, isn't it? It's like, I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience on the UEFA, and particularly in the region of, it was kind of, how would I say, there was elements where you went out and you played and you learned by playing and doing certain things within it that, probably been realistic, if it had been a mixed course, I wouldn't have got involved in that side of it, but I would have stood out a little bit. You know, so in that regard, it was excellent, and it was a really positive learning environment. And I'd still be in a group with all those coaches actually, where we'd still tic-tac on different things, or you kind of created a network. And there was a second UEFA actually, they didn't get to finish it as yet. They're waiting to get back onto the pitch, so hopefully they will. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to say, I found my experience of it very, very positive. But I guess some of and I see it with players maybe at a younger age profile that I'm dealing with, and then in turn with female coaches, often it's a confidence element. It's the confidence thing that is one of the main barriers that I have seen, that I'd see myself over the years that I've come across. And in one sense, a female only, although it's excellent and it's a great learning environment, it's not taking away that barrier either, in a sense. So I guess to me, it's trying to find a balance on that. And as I said, I got a huge amount out of it. I've got a huge network of coaches that I can bounce things off of and whatnot. But as in, is it taking away the barrier of, you know, building my confidence? Well, I suppose building it to a degree, but as in building it in maybe a more male-orientated environment, possibly not. You know, so I guess it's trying to get the mix of that. I think the big thing about, and another one maybe of the barriers for female coaches that often comes in is that time barrier and being able to get there. And I think the blended online method now I think that'll be massive. I think that'll be huge, and I think that would be a massive help in relation to engaging more coaches, and for them to continue on their pathway. You know, so it's not having to maybe spend a full day away. You can get half your stuff done, and I think that'll be a help. I think time, and it's probably across both male and female coaches in general, that the time is always a factor. So I think the blended learning will be helpful on that as well. So yeah, like, lots been done, and I think it's very, very positive. And it's just, I suppose, to continue to do that, to continue identifying what are the blockers, and see can we overcome them or go around them.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely agree with the fine balance between like having those sort of female only things and having a mix, because like unfortunately, and I'd say for all our sports here, the reality is they're all male dominated, whether it's participation or coaches or referees or whatever it is. So I think I've said that before, that you know, when I was starting out as a coach, I found that very tough to navigate, because you're trying not to, you are the minority in that scenario, but you're trying not to, you know, showcase that, versus when you get a little bit more confident, you get a little bit more time under your belt kind of thing, you don't necessarily have an issue. And some people, I know myself, I'm actually more comfortable in a male majority environment now, because that's just what I'm used to. So like it's a very fine balance. I think there is brilliant work like going on. You can see a lot of promotion about getting more coaches and referees involved in soccer, and hopefully it keeps kicking on. And just, you know, another thing around barriers that we know from research is sort of the lack of role models as well. And I'd say, Maria, the WGPA or the GPA now that we come into, I'll have to see what the new name is. They're not short of role models anyway, from the women who are involved on your committees and your chairs, from Valerie Mulcahy, and I don't know how many all-stars there is on that list. So you know, that's also vital as well. And how do you view female participation at the moment in Gaelic?
Yeah, I think, you know, you look at those, you know, 6 or 7 founding members of WGPA, and you can, on one hand, look at the Ireland medals that they have in the All-Stars, but for me, their legacy will actually be creating the WGPA, and for what it's going to turn into now, and just the standard it has brought the women's game, and the impact it has had on the women's game. So yeah, participation levels, like I think they're, like, you know, ladies football is massively exploding in every club across the country. Is Camogie exploding to the same, you know, same rate? Probably not, being honest. And I think we need to look at that and see strategically how we get more girls picking up a hurl and get them to stay in the game. And that comes down to the fact that, look, there's not 32 counties with a Camogie inter-county team. So, and that comes back to having a role models as well. And if you can't see it, you can't be it. So I think, you know, we are generating more and more role models. And something the girls have touched upon as well this evening is just all the games being streamed, and just how much more accessible they are to people. So like last year, every inter-county camogie and football game was streamed. Like the amount of people you had tuning in that you never had before, or perhaps was tuning in to TG Carter and couldn't understand the analysis of the game because it didn't understand Irish, or other barriers like that. They're now all on live streams, and I hope that's a trend we continue to see throughout, you know, 2021 and post-COVID, because if you break down those barriers and let people access the game, both games are a fantastic product, and it's from there that you'll generate your participation, but at a grassroots level for players, and also at an administration level where you try and retain your former players transitioning out of the game, and get them to stay in some sort of a format, be it, you know, administrator, a referee, a club official, anything, to keep them in the game. So there's loads of programs within the 2 national governing bodies within the women's. I know the Manal program in Camogie and the LGFA have a women's leadership program as well. And then likewise the GPA, you know, we have our GPA Jim Madden leadership program for male and female inter-county players. So I think there's more and more opportunities for females to stay involved in the game, but there is more and more barriers as well. And you know, we've mentioned time, we've mentioned cost, but it's like, how do we break those down to actually get them to stay in it? Like there's 1 in 2 girls at the age of 13 or 14 dropping out of sport. Like that's huge. Like it's crazy to think of that.
Yeah.
And the impact that's had. So yeah, I think there's a lot done, but a lot more to do in it.
Yeah. No, it's a mad statistic, and I know as well there's also an issue around 16 years old. That the research is only from the UK, but I wouldn't be surprised it's the same here. I think up to 25,000 girls drop out of sport at 16 years of age, and you know, a lot of them say either that they stop having fun, or you know, a lot of the conclusions in this research is that there's just no role models for them, so they can't see people who are older than them playing the game, so they don't think it's an option. And it's crazy. I think, you know, I think everyone has talked about sort of the promotion and the streaming of their own sports. I think that's just massive, even just from, yeah, it's great for the likes of me who's a casual fan of soccer, and I can tune in and watch the game back if I want, but even more so for those 11, 12-year-olds who absolutely love the game, especially now in COVID. Maybe they can't travel out to watch them and they can't see their heroes playing the match, and it's just really, really important. It'd be great to see a lot more of that going on after COVID, exactly like you said, Maria.
Yeah, I think something that hit me with the live streaming was actually the clippets of the skills that were actually being showcased on Twitter. So I think back to Rebecca Henley's double sideline cut for Galway Camogie last year, and just because that game was streamed, it was now going viral online. You think to Amy Mackin's point off the outside of her boot, and that went viral because it was streamed. It could actually be showcased. So there is an appetite there for it. So I think, you know, it'd be great to see that being built upon this year, and see more of those kind of like clips going viral.
Brilliant. I will just quickly give another shout out to our sponsors. Again, so RIPT or YPD. So are you tired of the limitations of using Excel and email to deliver programs? RIPT can help you simplify the creation and delivery of training programs, making it easier for you to provide everything your clients and athletes need. All at their fingertips with training load, well-being and nutrition monitoring, so you can get the full picture of your clients' and athletes' performance. To find out more, head over to www.ript.app and use the code LOCKERROOM to get your 2-month free trial. The coupon code there, LOCKERROOM, is in all caps and it's one word. Okay, so we'll probably wrap it up soon enough, guys. I just would love to sort of ask you guys, because I think pretty much everyone has mentioned 20 by 20. We've all mentioned, you know, can't see, can't be. The importance of getting more females involved in pretty much every capacity of the game. So an open question to the floor is, what are your hopes for your own sport over the next 10 years? Big question.
I suppose I'll go first. Yeah, it's difficult. I think we're in the short term, we're hoping to get back on court as soon as possible. I know our international senior women's team are supposed to be going to play in the small countries this summer. Our men are supposed to be hosting the small countries European Championships. We haven't been given any kind of green light to go ahead and train for those. Like, the girls can train individually indoors by themselves, same with the men. So obviously, like, that's something a bit of a barrier at the moment. I think over the next few years, I want to see lots more girls and boys going abroad to play. I think at the moment we have a good few girls playing over in the States, you know, on scholarship at Division 1 or Division 2 college level. I mean, we have like Brona Cassidy, who won Rookie of the Year in the Patriot League this year. So I think there's a role model straight away, along with the Maguire sisters that are in HBU. And, you know, like, there is an extensive list at the moment of girls that have been previously away and that have come back. You have Adele Thornton, who is a visible role model. So I think the more that we have of those girls, I think that's what we're talking about, really, isn't it? Is kind of championing them a little bit more. Just kind of using them, I suppose, for our brand. But yeah, I think, like the guys as well, like, it's not about even trying to separate like the men and women. It is about like a collaborative approach and making sure that it's just sport, like, you know, and that we do have those opportunities for both boys and girls. There's 30 odd boys playing abroad at the moment in Europe or in the States from Ireland, like, which is brilliant. So, you know, we want to try and get more girls and more boys playing abroad, and then eventually they'll come back and make our Irish leagues and our international team stronger.
Brilliant. How about yourself, Lizzy?
Yeah, I think, you know, I mentioned obviously that the national leagues are back, but I in the short term, like that, love to see grassroots back, kids back out playing. The underage international structures actually have hit a real roadblock. So, like, the 2 years of under 19s have missed the opportunity to participate and represent their country. So we're due to actually this year, the qualifiers are due to take place in Ireland in October. So I'd be really hopeful that might go ahead. And I suggest on top of that, with regard to the women's national league as a whole, I'd like to see it progress, start to see it become a semi-professional league. Why not? Why shouldn't it, you know? And I guess to add to that, we're very unlucky with the senior international squad this year not to qualify for this summer's tournament. So I think, you know, in soccer terms, we always talk about the Italian 90 moment, and I think we're hanging for that in women's soccer. I think if we could to get over the line once, I think it would be massive for the game. You know, the numbers are grown. It's you know, similar to, I suppose, the camogie and ladies football, and I suppose ladies football in one sense that they've kind of set the bar with coverage and with different things like that, and I think participation numbers. So again, we'd look to grow, look to expand that. You know, we're very lucky. There's a very competitive league and a professional league over in the UK. We have girls over there playing, you know. So I just think, you know, clear pathways for whatever level that girls want to play at, whether it's at grassroots, you know, representative teams, national league or international, that just the pathways are there. And I suppose the opportunities are there for them to be able to grab it. So whatever they want to achieve, that there's no barriers to it. And similarly, on a coaching and administration level, that there's opportunities for what people want to achieve. They can just go and get it. And I think we're moving in the right direction. And I think listening to it, it's fantastic listening to the girls on the other sports as well, because I think we're all trying to move in a similar direction. And I think there's strength in numbers on that as well. So I think it's very positive. So that's my hope anyway.
And yourself, Maria?
I'm going to dream big here and pretend there's no barriers. So 10 years time, like, imagine if there was 80,000 people rocking up to Croke Park for every championship game, female game, and not just 50,000 on our Ireland final day. I think that would be massive. Imagine having female intercounty managers in both male and female codes just being the norm. And imagine having just one national governing body that had equal opportunities for all small boys and girls, you know, entering it. There's a new player pathway announced last week for the first time between the three associations. That's huge. We now need to see that being developed on a one county model as well, and hopefully a one national government model. So they're my three big things I'd love to see being achieved in 10 years time.
No harm dreaming big. I think, yeah, like, I think we all have very sort of similar hope and dreams there, that it's just, you know, let females be involved in whatever way they want to be involved and put in the pathways and the structures for them. And I know I can speak from a rugby point of view that's I relate and I agree to everything you guys have said, that, you know, there's the talent there. From basketball point of view, you're saying that everyone is across in the States on scholarships. There's definitely the talent there from a soccer point of view as well, again in the UK or in the States, and you absolutely have the talent there in ladies football and camogie. So it's just about, I guess, empowering them and actually giving them the structures into the sport that they need to, you know, showcase the sport the way they should be able to. So they're all brilliant, and I would hopefully like to see all them come in. Maybe not 10 years. I'd hate to see it take 10 years, but hopefully in the next few years. But yeah, look, guys, I wanted to say thank you very much for coming on. You guys are all doing brilliant work, and I know each of the organizations you're involved with are really benefiting from your involvement and your passion for what you're doing. So keep up the good work, and hopefully we get good news tomorrow. But sure, if not, hopefully we see you all on the pitch or the court very soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Locker Room podcast. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. Brilliant to have the three guests on board today. Just to mention as well that we are also committed to promoting diverse talent, and as part of that, we'd love to get more female coaching voices involved here at DD Sports Science. So for the remainder of April, we have a very special promotion on for female coaches. So if you use the coupon code COACH30 in all caps, no space, and you'll get 30% off DSS membership. So if you have listened to this and you've enjoyed some of the content, this is just a very small sample of the huge amount of content that we provide. So please do get involved. Feel free to use that coupon code, and hopefully we'll chat to you soon.